On the early morning of April 1st, 2006, a young man walked into a bustling establishment in Columbus, Ohio, and effectively vanished from existence. Surveillance cameras recorded his entry up a brightly lit escalator, yet no recording ever captured his departure. How can an adult human being step into a heavily monitored space and never be seen leaving? This singular anomaly forms the foundation of a modern locked room-style mystery that continues to perplex investigators and forensically minded observers alike. The disappearance occurred during the vibrant bustle of a weekend night inside a commercial complex where dozens of patrons move through defined entry and exit points. When an individual vanishes within a controlled environment, the standard assumptions of missing persons investigations collapse. Detectives are left to reconcile physical geography with digital records that flatly contradict one another. The resolution to this puzzle requires a rigorous examination of the evidence surrounding Brian Shaffer, the medical student whose sudden absence remains one of North America's most baffling cold cases. Brian Shaffer was 27 years old in the spring of 2006, pursuing a demanding career path as a second-year medical student at The Ohio State University. Known for his warm demeanor, musical talent, and deep artistic interests, Brian had built a life grounded in academic achievement and personal ambition. However, his outward success was shadowed by recent profound personal tragedy. Just 3 weeks prior to his disappearance, his mother, Alexis Shaffer, had lost her battle with cancer, leaving Brian and his family in deep mourning. Despite his grief, Brian attempted to maintain his daily routines as spring break approached. He had planned an upcoming trip to Miami, Florida with his girlfriend Alexis Wagner, where many anticipated he might propose to her. On the evening of March 31st, 2006, Brian went out to celebrate the conclusion of exams with close friends. He met his companion, William Toots Florence, at a local establishment before traveling toward the South Campus Gateway District. Nothing in his demeanor indicated distress or premeditated departure. The focal point of the night became the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a popular bar situated on the second floor of a modern complex in Columbus, Ohio. Access to the establishment was controlled primarily by a main entrance served by a public escalator positioned directly beneath a high-definition security camera. According to official police records, the location was designed with specific public access channels, making spontaneous, unmonitored exits exceptionally difficult for any casual patron to execute unnoticed. Closed-circuit television, defined as a localized video surveillance system that records activity within a specified perimeter, captured pivotal CCTV footage of Brian at 1:55 a.m. on April 1st. In the video, Brian stands outside the bar entrance on the second-floor landing, conversing briefly with two women before walking back toward the establishment. That precise moment represents the last confirmed visual record of Brian Shaffer alive. When the bar closed at 2:00 a.m., hundreds of patrons exited down the same escalator, but Brian was not among them. Investigators meticulously reviewed hundreds of hours of recorded footage from every operational camera in the South Campus Gateway complex. Each individual exiting the venue was painstakingly cross-referenced by law enforcement personnel seeking to identify Brian in the crowd. The comprehensive nature of this digital audit led detectives to an extraordinary conclusion. Brian Shaffer had walked into the building, but according to the exhaustive visual archive, he had never walked back out. When Brian failed to meet his girlfriend for their flight to Florida the following Monday, family members immediately alerted the Columbus Division of Police. Detective John Hurst and lead investigators initiated a missing persons case that quickly expanded in scope. Law enforcement recognized that the timeline was uncommonly tight. The search began at the last known location, transforming the commercial complex into an active investigative site where every corner required rigorous examination. As part of standard procedure, detectives sought to establish an alibi, defined as verifiable evidence that a person was in another location at the time a crime or event took place, for everyone in Brian's inner circle. Friends, acquaintances, and bar staff were interviewed extensively to reconstruct the final hours leading up to closing time. While most associates cooperated fully with law enforcement, Key gaps in witness memory and conflicting accounts regarding Brian's final conversations compounded the analytical challenge. The physical search inside the ugly Tuna Saloona extended far beyond the main floor and customer seating areas. Search teams systematically inspected service closets, air ducts, storage rooms, and ceiling crawl spaces to ensure no physical body remained hidden inside the structure. Police dogs trained in human scent detection were brought into the building, yet they found no trace of Brian within the bar's interior or in the surrounding commercial suites. Attention soon shifted to alternative exit routes that bypassed the main camera setup. The building contained a secondary service door used primarily by staff, which opened into an adjacent construction zone. This area was unlit, cluttered with building materials, and lacked active security cameras at the time of the event. According to investigative reports, navigating this route uninjured in the dark would have been challenging, yet it represented the only physical exit not continuously monitored by lens feeds. The psychological toll on the Shaffer family deepened as weeks turned into months without tangible progress. Randy Shaffer, Brian's father, became a relentless advocate for his missing son, distributing flyers, speaking to news outlets, and coordinating private search efforts. Grief over his wife's passing was now intertwined with the excruciating uncertainty of Brian's fate. The local community rallied around the family, but the absence of physical evidence left everyone in a state of prolonged anguish. Tragedy struck the family once more in September 2008 when Randy Shaffer died unexpectedly during a severe storm after being struck by a falling tree branch. The untimely death of the devoted father added a layer of profound heartbreak to an already harrowing narrative. Brian's younger brother, Derek Shaffer, became the primary voice demanding answers, carrying the heavy burden of two lost parents and an unresolved disappearance. In assessing the potential involvement of third parties, law enforcement rigorously evaluated the possibility of foul play. Detectives sought forensic evidence defined as physical or biological material suitable for use in a court of law that might indicate a violent confrontation occurred inside or near the venue. No blood spatter, struggle marks, torn clothing, or personal belongings were recovered anywhere within the complex, leaving investigators without a physical crime scene to analyze. Investigative protocols included administering polygraph tests to individuals who were with Brian during his final known hours. While several acquaintances passed the examinations, key witnesses declined to participate on the advice of legal counsel, creating enduring speculation among the public. Law enforcement personnel maintained that declining a polygraph is a constitutional right and not legal proof of guilt. Yet the resulting impasse stalled critical lines of inquiry. A baffling development emerged months after the disappearance when Brian's mobile phone registered activity. Cell phone tower records indicated that a signal from his phone pinged a tower in Hilliard, Ohio, approximately 14 miles away from the bar. According to technical reports from the service provider, this event could have been caused by a system glitch or a brief power cycle, but it briefly renewed hope that Brian might still be alive. Analysts evaluating the case frequently divide the potential scenarios into two primary hypotheses. The first posits that Brian intentionally staged his own disappearance, choosing to abandon his life and career under the extreme weight of personal grief. The second hypothesis suggests that Brian met with foul play after leaving the building through an unmonitored construction pathway, followed by the deliberate concealment of his remains far from the scene. When an agency investigates a disappearance within a monitored space, the spatial environment of the South Campus Gateway serves as a complex case study for urban criminologists. In modern investigative work, high-density surveillance is often assumed to provide total transparency over human movement. Yet, the physical architecture of urban structures frequently contains subtle blind spots where technological observation fails, illustrating how even heavily monitored modern spaces can conceal critical moments of vulnerability. Re-examining the CCTV footage through modern digital enhancement tools has yielded no new breakthroughs over the years. Investigators note that security technology in 2006 operated at lower frame rates and lower resolution than current systems, introducing motion blur and obscuring facial details in crowded frames. A patron wearing altered clothing or moving within a tight group of people could potentially pass by a camera without triggering immediate recognition during initial reviews. The persistent silence surrounding Brian Shaffer's fate continues to resonate through the academic and local communities of Columbus. Memorials, annual vigils, and dedicated digital archives keep his memory alive, reflecting a collective commitment never to abandon the search for truth. For those who knew Brian, the absence of answers remains an open wound, proving that the passage of time does not diminish the demand for clarity. Cold case detectives continue to re-audit the case file, applying updated analytical techniques to existing witness statements and physical documentation. According to the Columbus Division of Police, the file remains open and active, with leads investigated whenever new tips are submitted by the public. Detectives remain hopeful that a single forgotten detail or a future witness testimony will finally break the decades-long silence. Why the disappearance of Brian Shaffer remains so deeply baffling lies in the unsettling contradiction between total visual surveillance and absolute physical absence. A young man walked into a monitored building on a spring night surrounded by friends and caught on camera, only to step beyond the reach of modern record-keeping entirely. Until definitive evidence emerges to bridge that gap, the unanswered questions surrounding the ugly tuna saloona will continue to haunt the historical ledger of cold cases.